Hey everyone, I'm Ed Smith and welcome to the new episode of the Collected Editions Review. You may know me from the Main Band podcast where we talk about comics, RPGs and all things geeky, but here I'm going to be talking mostly about Bronze Age and Silver Age collections in the hope of persuading you to pick a few up and experience these great stories. So today is a little different. We are going to be talking about a English publication, which is the Judge Dredd Complete Case Files Volume 1. This contains progs 2 to 60 of 2000 AD from 1977 to 1978. So I've been collecting 2000 AD since the mid-80s and pretty much thought I'd read every Judge Dredd story out there, either through the original 2000 ADs themselves or the classic reprints. But it actually turns out after looking at these complete case files, I was wrong. I was inspired to go and look at these older stories when EM Publishing started doing their Judge Dredd in the World of 2000 AD role-playing game. They started off their supplements with the Robot Revolution story, and we're going to progress through kind of the major stories of the Judge Dredd run. And I thought, let's go and have a look, see if I'd actually missed out anything. And as it appears to be, I had them. So there are a lot of writers in these stories, mostly doing one-shot, simple stories. The people I know most of all are Pat Mills and Joel Wagner, which continued on through Judge Dredd and 2000 AD and other comics later on. Most other writers kind of wrote one or two episodes and then kind of moved on to other series within 2000 AD. The art was very similar as well. We had kind of a few one-shot artists here and there and everywhere. The most notable ones that I know of that I'd seen elsewhere in 2000 AD and other places were Massimo Bellardinelli, who did a lot of things for 2000 AD up through the mid-80s or so. Carlos Ezquerra, who did the Strontium Dog strip in his early years and kind of all the way through. It's kind of like the pinnacle of Strontium Dog artists. He's here. Mike McMahon did some stuff for Judge Dredd. There's some stuff for Slain and a few other things as well. And this one also includes some particularly early artwork by Brian Bolland, who worked for 2000 AD quite a lot and obviously moved on to DC and a few other places as well for covers and a few other things as well. Bolland's artwork, probably some of my favourite stuff ever, so anything with early Bolland, I'm very, very happy. So the stories themselves actually in this volume are pretty much a little on the nose. They mostly come down to crime's been committed, Judge Dredd kind of bursts in, stops the crime, shouts I am the law, guns down the criminals, moves on, justice is prevailed, everything is back to normal kind of thing. We start seeing in the later stories the original setting of New York kind of gets amalgamated into Mega City, which is a city that kind of goes down the entire eastern seaboard of America, and more science fiction-y kind of things coming in as well. Dredd's actual appearance transforms depending on which artists go, but they kind of stay within the same kind of boundaries. We see the uniform kind of starts getting there, the bike designs, all that kind of stuff starts actually kind of staying more consistent throughout, and the kind of the world building at these early issues is something we even see up until now. With Dredd himself, this is set in the year 2099. Dredd actually ages in real time, which is kind of a rare thing for comic characters. So he is now 90 odd, after a few kind of de-aging processes for various things as well. But him and his supporting cast, the chief judges, kind of get depossessed or move on because they age out. Other characters age out, new kind of judges come in, and that's a particularly unique thing we see in the actual Judge Dredd stories. So as I said before, most of the stories here are kind of one-shot tales. Most notable kind of among these things, as I mentioned before, the Call Me Kenneth Robot Revolution. That's something that's featured quite heavily in some reprints. The Mega City 5000 issue has early Bolland artwork in it. There is a particular short story in here called The Face Change Crimes, which again has Brian Bolland artwork in it, where the criminals of Lunar City are actually transforming their shape, the shape of their faces into prominent comedians, such as Lauren Hardy and the Marx Brothers, in order to avoid being captured, and they can do it any time as well. And Brian Bolland does some almost photorealistic interpretations of these people. You know who these people are. That's a particularly well-known story in the kind of the Dredd archives. Now, interestingly enough, the last few issues are here as well. We move away from Mega City. We actually go to Lunar City 1, which is on the moon. Dredd is actually appointed to take control over there. and we see outside of Mega City 1, we now see Texas City, Mega City 2, a few other places mentioned as well. We have the first Lunar Olympics on there as well, which apparently there's an incident there which annoys the Sovs, which is the Russian version of Mega City, and we start seeing kind of again more well-born stuff that's going to build up to later stories, which include the Apocalypse War, Blockmania, all that kind of stuff. So there's some very detailed foundations here for later stories. Is the volume itself worth reading? Yes, if you're particularly interested in the history of the actual character of Dredd, and if you actually kind of want to see how this character developed throughout this time. The political references or the satirical references here obviously dated back to 77, so some of them things might go completely over people's heads, and obviously they're British references as well. But the actual stories themselves are kind of the era. But if you're looking just to see where Dredd came from, just get some ideas. If you're running a campaign in the Worlds of 2000 AD role-playing game and you want to see kind of what Mega City was like in 2099, definitely worth a look. All in all, though, again, if just this is early work of Bolland, that for me sold it. So later issues are going to have some particularly major stories, but this one still is definitely worth reading. So yes, this will not be the last Judge Dredd Complete Case Files we will be looking into. So that's what happens next. So with that, thank you for listening, and I'll catch you next time on the Collected Editions review.